So I wanted to ask you this too. Before we actually started recording, I mentioned that I had a little son. He's almost 18 months old, and I'm starting to think about how to help him along in his relationship with not just poetry and books and literature, but just the imagination itself.
Yeah, and of course he may help you because he's probably
Right.
living in a far more poetic world than either of us.
Right.
You know, if you read Wordsworth's Ode on Intimations of Immortality, you know, he says, not naked do we come trailing clouds of glory, you know, heaven lies about us in our infancy. You think about the poetic, not only the intellectual poetic world that a child does as they begin to develop language, finding metaphors and symbols, making the outer inner and the inner outer. That's what poetry is. I mean, Coleridge said that a poet is precisely a person who brings the vision of the child into the powers of the adult.
Yes, yes.
So your son's already ahead of you, but what you can do is read him lovely stuff and chant to him.
Chant.
Have him hear. I mean, nursery rhymes are great, but there's no reason that you shouldn't chant beautiful things to your child even before they're capable of understanding them, because the rhythm will go in. I mean, my mother particularly did that for me all the time, not because she'd read some parenting book that she said she should do it, right, but because she was full of poetry and she naturally expressed herself that way. And
so you grew up around this completely from the very beginning. You were immersed in this world.
Yeah. I mean, both my parents to some degree, but my mother more. I saw what was a fairly old-fashioned household, and in some respects, well, it was of its time, you know, in the 50s and early 60s. And I saw more of my mother than I did of my father.
Yeah.
So as in my infancy and my, you know, younger growing stages, it was my mother who would just, you know, she would recite poetry. She would also sing, you know. She was a Scotswoman and she'd sing, you know, Eubanks, and she'd sing things which a 5-year-old is not going to get, in the sense that they haven't got the experience of life.
Yeah.
So she'd sing, you know, ye banks and braes of bonny Doon, how can ye bloom sae fresh and fair? How can ye chant, ye warbling bird, when I'm sae weary and full of care? With lightsome heart I pulled a rose, full sweet upon the flowering tree. But my false lover, he stole my rose, but he left the thorn with me. Well, I mean, a 5-year-old is not going to understand what that last verse means.
Yeah.
But a 5-year-old knows about roses and thorns and prickles on flowers.
Yes, they can start.
And something has been given to you about the very nature of life and the bittersweetness of love. And, you know, it's all there.
Yeah, I set this part aside too. I wanted to read it. It's exactly what you said. This is from Chesterton in Orthodoxy.
Oh, it's a great book, that.
He says, a child of 7 is excited by being told that Tommy opened a door and saw a dragon, but a child of 3 is excited by being told that Tommy opened a door.
Yes,
and then, yeah. And then later said, these tales that say that apples were golden, only to refresh the forgotten moment that we found that they were green, and they make rivers run with wine, only to make us remember for that one wild moment that they run with water. So yeah, that is essentially exactly what you were saying, that it's really as you grow older that you're in danger of losing.
Yeah, and the whole purpose of poetry is precisely to restore that wonder.
Yeah.